Keith Fraser for Seconds Out. I'm here again with Eddie Hearn. Second time in literally a matter of days. This is becoming a bit of a habit, isn't it?
I know, and I'm not the host promoter today. It's very nice. I was expecting just to say a few words and scoot out the back door, but I'm still here.
Well, you're never a man of just a few words. No, you're not. And of course, if we meet again in another few days, maybe next time you buy me a beer as well. Okay. But wishful thinking. Anyway, nice to see you. We're here at the press conference of George Groves, Jamie Cox for the World Boxing Super Series. How did this series come about, Eddie? Can you give a bit more of an insight?
Yeah, well, obviously, Kamosa and Kalle Sauerland and Richard Schaefer were working on a tournament. Obviously, Kalle's done the Super 6 tournament as well, quite similar to that, with some interesting changes. They spoke to us about fighters that could potentially go in the tournament, two of which we represent in Callum Smith and Jamie Cox, and cruiserweights Mike Perez, and it was a great opportunity for them. It's not something that holds up the career for too long. It's over a 9-month period, so Jamie Cox was a no-brainer for us to dive in, a great chance for him, and then eventually he gets picked for the world title against George Groves, which is this Saturday, so a real great chance for him to become world champion. And I think the tournament's good for boxing, and we're excited to be a part of it.
As a boxing fan myself, one of the issues I've got with the sport is the fact there's too many world title belts, and I think in any sport people like to know who is the best, who is the world champ, and you can call this one the world champion, that one the world champion. Is this the future of boxing, these super series where everyone gets stuck in and we finally get to know who the best is?
They could be if the best go in and if all the titles are on the line. That's going to be the cruiserweight tournament is a great example of what could happen. Every world champion in that tournament, therefore the winner is the undisputed world champion. Great. It's just going to be hard to get every belt holder in the tournament from the get-go. I think the bigger weights, like the commercially bigger weights, you'll always struggle. Heavyweights, welterweights perhaps, but certainly when you talk about cruisers, maybe looking at the bantams and super bantams, I think you can get all the belts on the line, and I think that's great for boxing when there's a chance to have an undisputed champion. The problem is, once you become undisputed, you've then got 3 or 4 mandatories. Look at Terence Crawford recently, who beat Julius Ndongo for all the belts, and then he had 3 mandatories, and then he had to drop most of them. So you can't keep them for long, unfortunately.
I mean, could you see a time where you have something like the Boxing Super Series, or the Muhammad Ali Trophy as it's called, being the most coveted thing for a boxer to fight for? Because that would mean he is true number one.
Yeah, and you've got that as well. I mean, with the Ring Magazine belt, you've got a belt there that has been produced by a magazine. Yet, to the fighter, it is, well, I will say, it is the belt that many of them want to win, because there's no politics there. It's just a recognition that you are the best in the division. And the only other way to do that is to win all the belts. So the Ali Trophy is something else where, you could say if you win that Ali Trophy, you are the best in division. But to have that moniker, you have to fight the best in the division. And the recruitment process for Kalle is difficult, but they're doing a great job of getting the best fighters in. If they can keep getting the best fighters in the division, essentially, like the cruiserweights, for example, the winner of that tournament is the best cruiserweight in the world, no doubt. Is the winner of the super middleweight tournament the best cruiserweight in the world? Not necessarily, but they could call themselves that. But some of the other champions would say, well, hang on a minute, I wasn't in it. James DeGale,
Why didn't James DeGale take part?
He was injured, so he would have definitely looked at the tournament. So, but when all the champions aren't in, it's difficult to say you are number one. Well, you could say it, just whether it's true or not.
Well, maybe the winner of this tournament could go on and fight James DeGale.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the winner of this tournament is a natural fight.
And just looking towards Saturday night, Jamie Cox, light middleweight originally, now he's fighting a seasoned super middleweight. Do you think that's going to be a problem?
I think he's up against it size-wise, but Jamie Cox is a super middleweight. It's not. He started his career at light middleweight, as John Costello pointed out. Manny Pacquiao started his career at light flyweight. But George Groves is a big super middleweight. There's no doubt about that. So he's up against it, but people in the game know about Jamie Cox, and it wouldn't surprise anyone in the game if Jamie Cox wins on Saturday night. It would surprise a lot of people, but in boxing, not. And this is the first time for a long time, probably since Carl Froch, that George Groves has come up against a puncher. And I don't believe Groves is the same fighter now than he was in Groves 1. He's still an excellent fighter, but Froch won, sorry, yeah. But he's still a very good fighter. But he can be hurt, and Cox can knock him out. But he can punch himself. So it's going to be a good fight.
So it's an interesting fight, and of course the winner faces Eubank Jr. Like I said to George Groves and I said to Jamie Cox, in a way, because you're in a tournament, a bit like a tennis tournament, they often talk about who you're meeting in the final. But of course you've got to deal with your opponents in the earlier rounds. What do you fancy in the semi-final? Let's say Eubank Jr. against your man Jamie Cox or George Groves. How do you see Eubank Jr.? I mean, he's talking a big game. What do you think?
I think he's a good young fighter. I think his performance at the weekend was very good. He's exciting. And I think the difference is with this tournament is because you know essentially what you're getting for the semi-final. It's not like you can say, oh, you're on the verge of this huge pay-per-view, because if I win, I'll get X, and et cetera, et cetera. So, and it's a great opportunity. So I don't think they're going to be thinking, oh, just got to win this fight, then I'll get the Eubank fight, because whoever they get in the next round, they know what they're getting. So this is really about Saturday night. For Cox, all that matters is George Groves. And I'm sure George will be looking at winning the tournament, but he also knows that Cox is a threat. So it's going to be interesting, and two very talented British fighters.
Well, I'm looking forward to Saturday night. Thank you very much, Eddie Hearn. That beer is on hold for now, but looking forward to it next time.
Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot.